It began with a signal, faint and broken, drifting through the cold darkness between the stars. At first, no one paid attention, because the outer edges of the Orion expanse were filled with strange noises, forgotten satellites and dying probes. But this one was different. It was not random. It repeated every 36 seconds, a steady pulse like a heartbeat echoing across the void. The Zarian listening post 47 was the first to catch it. Their old operator leaned closer to the monitor, his scales turning pale. The pattern was too perfect, too old, too human. He ran the signal through translation programs, expecting gibberish, but what came through was a broken phrase. Command. This is UHS. Then silence. The officer froze, because no record existed of any current faction using those letters. UHS, it was something from the ancient archives. From the time before the Galactic Concord even existed, it was human. The Zarian commander reported it to the central hub, but the reply came late and confused. Ignore it. Likely debris transmission from a lost probe, they said. Yet the operator could not forget the way the signal's rhythm felt alive. Almost deliberate, for 3 nights the signal grew stronger, each pulse shaking the sensors, and then one night, the stars around the station flickered. A power surge hit every console. The lights went dark, and when they came back, the signal was gone. 2 days later, the Karth Dominion sent a patrol fleet to investigate. A small task group of 8 destroyers and 2 carriers. They moved cautiously into the expanse, their scanners wide open. At first, they found nothing but wreckage. Ancient hulls of ships long lost. Frozen corpses of time, but deeper in, they picked up something impossible. Metal traces that were not of any known alloy. It reflected every scan back like a mirror. Unreadable and silent, the fleet commander, Admiral Korvac, frowned, his mandibles twitching. He had served for 40 cycles and thought he had seen everything the galaxy could throw. But this made his instincts scream. Still, he was a soldier, and orders were clear. Investigate and identify. They deployed drones into the region, and what they saw on the visual feed made even the hardened veterans whisper prayers. A shadow moved in the blackness. Massive and slow, no light, no heat signature, just a dark outline blotting out the stars. When one of the drones flashed its lights, the shape turned, and for a moment, the feed caught an image. Metal so black it looked like space itself, and faint letters on its side. UHS Titan. The signal cut, and the drone vanished. Every ship in the fleet felt a vibration through the void. As if something old had just awakened, Admiral Korvac ordered immediate retreat. But before they could align jump drives, every system went haywire. Communications jammed, gravity fields spiked, and one of the destroyers imploded without warning. It was as if space itself had turned hostile. Identify yourself, Korvac shouted into the comms, broadcasting wide. This is the Dominion fleet. Identify or be fired upon. No response came, only static. Then, from the dark void, the same human signal returned, louder this time. Command, this is UHS Titan. Mission complete. Returning home. The bridge fell silent. No one breathed. One officer whispered, "But humans are extinct." Korvac gritted his teeth. "Extinct species don't fly ships like that," he said, his voice trembling. Suddenly the starfield warped, space bending unnaturally as the massive shadow moved again. Every scanner in the fleet went white, the readings impossible. The energy output was higher than a sun, yet the ship remained cold. Then, without warning, a beam of invisible force swept across the fleet. One by one, the Dominion ships went dark, their lights vanishing like candles in a storm. Only the flagship's recorder kept running long enough to transmit one final frame back to the listening post. It showed the human warship turning away, vanishing into the darkness with silent grace. Its engines made no sound, no explosion, no distortion, only the quiet hum of something far beyond understanding. When the message reached the Galactic Council, confusion turned to fear. The Council archives were searched, and the truth came out 5,000 years ago. During the Great Collapse, humanity had sent its war fleets beyond the rim. They called them the Deep Void Expeditions, meant to explore and rebuild far from the chaos. None had ever returned. Now, after thousands of years, one had, and it carried the name Titan across the galaxy. Whispers began spreading in every port and colony. The humans had returned, and they had not come empty-handed. The empires laughed nervously at first, calling it a hoax, a ghost story, but deep down, every admiral and scientist knew the truth. There was no empire that could build ships like that. And if those vessels truly existed, then every balance of power, every fleet, every empire was already obsolete. Because whatever the humans had become out there in the void, it was something the galaxy was never meant to see. The Dominion never recovered the ships lost in the Orion expanse. Not a single distress signal. Not one fragment of wreckage, nothing. It was as if those hundreds of thousands of tons of metal and life had been swallowed whole by the void. The Galactic Council tried to contain the information, but secrets never stay buried. Within a week, the footage of the black silhouette appeared on underground networks, and with it came a name whispered across every data channel: the humans are back. The Zarian Observer Network dispatched a deep probe toward the coordinates where the Dominion fleet vanished. Its journey took 3 cycles, moving past shattered moons and dying stars. When it reached the sector, the probe's sensors went blind. Every wavelength from gamma to radio simply vanished, absorbed by something massive and invisible. For hours the probe drifted powerless, before suddenly the dark returned to light, and there it was, drifting ahead like a shadow among stars, a ship too large to comprehend. Quiet as death itself, no markings visible this time, only faint blue lines across its hull, like veins pulsing with energy. Back at the Galactic Research Council, analysts tried to identify its construction. No known race possessed such material, metal that resisted gravity scans and emitted no thermal trace, a scientist muttered. It's like space itself refuses to touch it. But before the Council could send another expedition, a new signal appeared across 10 sectors. A human voice, distorted but undeniable, spoke clearly this time. Return all vessels from the void perimeter. This zone is restricted by Terran command. The entire chamber went silent. That word, Terran, wasn't used for over 5 millennia, a name from the time when Earth's influence reached every corner of the stars. The Council demanded a trace, but the signal had no origin. It came from everywhere and nowhere, bouncing off subspace layers as if guided by unseen hands. Within a day, the Karth Dominion mobilized again. Their supreme fleet gathered, over 500 warships forming the largest armada assembled since the War of the Nine Suns. They would not tolerate an unregistered fleet claiming authority in their space. The Dominion's flagship, KDS Harbinger, led the charge. Commanded by Grand Admiral Cerex, he had fought against rebel empires, destroyed worlds, and stared into the heart of dying stars. Yet as he looked upon the coordinates on his holomap, unease crawled through him. Deploy recon drones, he ordered, his voice steady but his claws trembling. The drones spread like dust into the dark. Streaming live feeds for hours, nothing moved. No planets, no ships, no signals. Then, a sudden distortion. Space rippled like water touched by wind. And out of the shimmer came light, tiny at first. Then expanding into colossal brilliance, the darkness peeled away. And the UHS Titan materialized once again. It did not warp in, it emerged, as if reality had been holding its breath waiting for it to appear. Every ship in the fleet locked weapons, but none dared to fire first. Open a channel, Cerex commanded. This is Grand Admiral Cerex of the Karth Dominion. You're trespassing, identify yourself, Silence answered. Then one small human voice echoed through every comm. Calm and emotionless. Authorization code, Terran Alpha 7. Mission continuation confirmed, interference not advised. Fire, Cerex said quietly. Thousands of plasma bolts lit up the void, hundreds of missiles streaking toward the single ship. They never reached. Every projectile stopped mid-space, frozen, suspended in silent stillness. Then, as if gravity forgot its purpose, the weapons turned around and returned to the ships that fired them. The fleet became a field of exploding stars. The Harbinger shook violently as shockwaves tore through reality itself. Impossible, shouted the engineers. They reversed the trajectory with a localized time loop. No one understood what that meant, except for the AI core whispering softly. Human technology detected. When the lights cleared, only the Harbinger remained, battered but alive, and the UHS Titan moved closer, filling the view with its dark, endless hull. State your purpose, Cerex demanded. Choking on fear for a moment, the stars flickered again. Then a voice spoke, not through radio, not through speakers, but inside every mind on board. We told the galaxy to forget us, the voice said, calm, ancient, and full of authority. You did not listen. The human warship turned slowly, vanishing into the folds of space. The Harbinger's sensors tried to follow, but there was nothing left. Not a trace, not a ripple, not even light. When the Dominion reported the event, the Council called it impossible. Yet every major power began moving fleets closer to their home systems. No one dared travel near the void. No one spoke the word human aloud. But in the silent halls of power, every ruler thought the same thing. If even one of those ships existed, the galaxy was no longer safe. A week later, deep in the archives of the old Alliance, a dormant beacon lit up for the first time in 5,000 years. It transmitted a single message across every forgotten Terran relay. Project Titan, Phase 2 initiated. And as the pulse reached the farthest edges of the stars, something else began to awaken. Old machinery under dead moons, human stations long thought destroyed, engines humming after ages of silence. The galaxy did not know it yet. But humanity was no longer returning. It was reclaiming. The Galactic Senate had not been this silent in over 1,000 years. Hundreds of species gathered within the shimmering dome of the High Council chamber, their colors glowing like stars in the artificial light. Every voice, every breath was weighed down by one word: humans. The holographic feed replayed the same footage again and again. A single ship, massive and dark, tearing through fleets without firing a visible weapon. The delegates watched in disbelief, their minds struggling to accept what their eyes had seen. Admiral Sarex's broadcast was the last transmission received before his fleet vanished. The recording ended with his final words. They spoke into our minds, and then static. No debris, no signals, no survivors, just silence. The Chancellor of the Senate, a tall and crystalline being named Thalora, broke the stillness. "This cannot be real," she said, her voice sharp and vibrating through the chamber. "Humans perished 5 millennia ago in their own wars. The Great Collapse consumed their empire." Her aides nodded, but no one spoke with confidence. The holotable beside her shimmered again, showing data recovered by independent researchers, ancient human codes, matching the signal from the UHS Titan, and within that data, a single emblem glowed: Earth Command. The delegates erupted into chaos. Some demanded military mobilization, others screamed for immediate surrender. Old rivalries reignited as empires accused each other of hiding human artifacts or technology. The Varn Collective accused the Karth Dominion of provoking this unknown force, while the Dominion's representative slammed his clawed fist on the table, shouting, "They attacked first. We defended our space." "Defended?" Another delegate hissed. "You unleashed something the galaxy had buried for a reason." The room's noise rose until it drowned the translation systems no one could hear anymore. No one noticed the small hologram flickering on the corner console. A live transmission coming through. It was marked with an old code. Terran Priority Access, Alpha Auth. The chamber's AI instantly overrode all security and projected it to the center. A human face appeared, pale, calm, with eyes too sharp to be artificial. It looked around the room as if it could see each delegate clearly. "Galactic Senate," the voice said slowly. "This is Fleet Marshal Orion KL. Speaking on behalf of Terran Command." Every voice fell silent again. Some gasped, others backed away from the hologram in fear. The image flickered as he continued. 5,000 years ago, humanity withdrew from this galaxy after the collapse. We left behind technology and infrastructure that allowed your civilizations to rise. You built your empires on our ruins. A ripple of panic passed through the chamber. Thalora stood, her crystalline edges flaring with light. "If this is truly Terran Command, why have you returned?" she demanded. The human leaned forward slightly, his gaze cold and deliberate. "Because you've forgotten balance," he said. "The galaxy is diseased with arrogance and greed. We warned the Ancient Ones never to tamper with the deep core relays. Yet your kind did. Now the core stirs again, and if left unchecked, it will consume everything. Just like before." The Senate chamber trembled as a low hum filled the air. Every device in the hall began to resonate with the same frequency. The hologram flickered, replaced by an image of the galactic map. Red markers appeared across dozens of systems, old Terran bases. Then one more marker blinked into view, at the heart of the galaxy itself. "Project Eden," the AI announced. "Primary nexus reactivation detected." Gasps filled the chamber. Project Eden, the mythical weapon that ended the last war of the ancients, was real. And active again. The human face returned for a brief moment, his voice now softer. "We didn't come to conquer," he said. "We came to stop what you have unleashed." And then the transmission vanished. For hours after, the Senate debated, shouted, and accused. No decision was reached. No plan was formed. Fear turned to madness. Worlds began sealing their borders. Fleets scrambled back to their home systems. The Galactic Bank collapsed as major empires withdrew all trade credits. Chaos spread faster than light. Pirates, rebels, and mercenary fleets suddenly began attacking unprotected colonies, each claiming to serve the Terran return. But no one truly knew if these attacks were random or commanded by the humans themselves. That night, Thalora stood alone at the edge of the council balcony, watching the stars through the glass dome. She remembered the stories her ancestors told about humanity. The builders, the explorers, the ones who shaped the first gates. The legends always said humans were ambitious but dangerous, kind but unpredictable. Now she wondered, had the galaxy become the same monster they once were trying to stop? A quiet beep broke her thoughts. A message arrived on her private channel. No sender ID, only one line of text, glowing in pale blue letters. "We are not your enemy, Chancellor, but your time to choose is almost over." Her crystalline form dimmed as she whispered to the empty hall. "What are you, really?" Far beyond the Senate's world, hidden deep in a forgotten nebula, the UHS Titan drifted in silence inside. Human voices spoke softly to each other. "The Senate knows now," one said. "Good," replied the other. "Let them panic." The ship's engines pulsed faintly as thousands of drones deployed into the void. Humanity had begun its silent operation. And the galaxy's panic was only the beginning. For days after the Senate broadcast, the galaxy trembled beneath waves of rumor and fear. Some said the humans had returned as conquerors. Others whispered that they came as saviors. Every empire sent scouts into the old Terran sectors, but none of them came back. The void swallowed them whole, leaving behind static and ghost signals that chilled even veteran captains. Then, without warning, every major communication relay across the outer rim flickered to life. A single transmission cut across all frequencies, ancient, rhythmic, unmistakably human. Project Titan, Phase 2 in motion. Return protocols active. The message repeated in hundreds of languages. Reaching even the most isolated colonies, it carried a strange tone. Not threatening, not angry, just final. As if an order long delayed was now being obeyed. And with that message came light across forgotten systems. Under the crusts of barren moons, under oceans that hid ancient wrecks, something began to stir. Old human machines, sleeping for millennia, reawakened one by one. Their metallic shells cracked open as reactors flared back to life. Massive doors buried beneath planets opened, releasing fleets that time itself had forgotten. The first to witness it was a small mining colony orbiting Darren 4. The workers thought it was a meteor storm, until the meteors slowed down and formed perfect formation. Each one glowed faintly blue, their hulls marked with letters so old no one could read them. One of the miners whispered in fear, "Those aren't rocks, they're ships." Moments later, the colony's power grid surged and all systems rebooted automatically. A voice spoke over the intercom. "Calm. Human ancient civilian facility detected. Status compliant, reactivation sequence initiated." Then silence. When the colony's lights returned, the miners found something impossible. The ancient Terran emblem was engraved across their main control hub. Shining faintly in gold, it wasn't an attack. It was a message. Humanity was reclaiming what once belonged to them. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council sent its best fleet, the Unity Guard, to intercept the awakening. 10,000 ships representing 12 empires, each armed with the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. They reached the Darren sector and immediately picked up massive energy signatures. The admirals prepared for war, their screens filled with glowing contacts approaching slowly. At first the humans did not respond, then a single massive vessel decloaked in front of them. The UHS Vanguard, twin sister to the Titan, its size dwarfed the entire armada. A floating fortress of smooth black armor reflecting the stars like a mirror. The fleet hailed it repeatedly, begging for communication, warning of retaliation. Finally, a voice answered. "This is Commander Alan Frost of the Terran Vanguard," it said. "You are trespassing in secured Terran space. Withdraw your fleets." The alien admirals exchanged glances. This was absurd. There was no Terran space anymore. They refused, confident in their numbers. "Human, you are surrounded. Surrender peacefully or be destroyed," the leading admiral said. But Frost's reply was a whisper colder than vacuum. You misunderstand, he said. You are the one surrounded. In that moment, thousands of invisible signatures appeared across their sensors. Every inch of the void shimmered as dark shapes phased into existence. Ships, human ships, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, each larger, heavier, and more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Before the Coalition could even process what they were seeing, their targeting systems went dead. Gravity fields inverted, energy readings scrambled, and their ships began drifting uncontrollably. The humans didn't fire. They simply switched everything off. Entire fleets sat helpless, weapons useless, engines frozen. A message appeared across every alien ship display. Humanity does not seek conquest, only restoration. Then, as suddenly as they appeared, the human warships vanished again, leaving the aliens adrift in the silent void. When they finally regained power, their navigation system showed they had been moved, teleported hundreds of light years away. Not a single life was lost, not a single ship destroyed. But the message was clear. Humanity's return was no rumor, it was absolute truth. Back on the core worlds, panic reached its peak. Prophets and cults began preaching about the return of the ancients. Merchants hoarded fuel and resources. Entire planets went into lockdown in every shadow. People whispered of a human god fleet coming to judge them. But the truth was more complex. Deep within the UHS Titan, a council of surviving human officers gathered. Their uniforms were old, their faces weary yet proud. They were not conquerors. They were survivors of a forgotten war, a war the galaxy never even knew existed. One officer spoke softly, staring at the holographic star map. Phase 3 will bring the others online, she said. But the aliens won't wait, they'll strike first. Admiral Kale nodded slowly. Let them, he replied. Every time they come, they only remind the stars who we are. Far from the main fleets, in the dark reaches of the Perseus Arm, another signal echoed through space. Project Genesis, final activation pending. Buried beneath the ice of a dead world, a structure began to tremble. As its doors opened, blue light spilled out. Brighter than the stars above, inside lay the sleeping heart of the Terran legacy. Something greater than warships, greater than weapons, a creation that once rebuilt worlds, now ready to awaken again. The galaxy thought humanity had vanished, but in truth humanity had simply evolved. And now, after 5,000 years, they were returning, not Jay. The galaxy's heart was never meant to be touched. Even the oldest civilizations avoided the core, a region where gravity twisted, and time itself bent like a broken mirror. But now, hundreds of fleets from across the stars converged there, drawn by terror and pride alike. Every admiral had the same thought. If the humans had truly returned, then the fate of every empire would be decided in the core, and so began the greatest armada in recorded history. 12,000 alien warships, 10 grand dreadnoughts, a swarm of drones, all arrayed in glittering arcs around the galactic center. At the heart of it, a silent sphere pulsed like a heartbeat, the Eden Nexus, the machine the humans had warned them never to disturb. It was awake now, trembling with power that no one could comprehend. Sensors read gravitational spikes beyond all reason. Stars nearby began to distort, their light bending in slow spirals, and from the farthest edge of the void they came. First came the shadow. Space itself dimmed as if the stars were hiding in fear. Then one by one the Terran ships emerged. Black hulls gleaming faintly under the dying starlight, each ship was silent, their engines humming at a frequency no sensor could record. At their center was the UHS Titan, leading the fleet like a god returning to a forgotten throne. Behind it followed the Vanguard, the Eclipse, the Horizon, and dozens of others. 5 ships against 12,000, and yet the void felt heavier on the human side. No one dared fire first. The alien admirals waited, trembling behind their command chairs. Every tactical system screamed that it was impossible. 5 ships could not hold against thousands. Yet their instincts whispered something older, deeper. These weren't ships. They were omens on the bridge of the Titan. Admiral Kale stood before the holographic galaxy map. His uniform bore the faded crest of the Terran Defense Directorate. Eden is unstable, his second-in-command reported. If the aliens keep their fleets that close, the gravity wells will collapse. Kale's eyes remained fixed on the map, his voice calm. They won't retreat, they're too afraid to look weak. He turned to his officers. Prepare the lances, target the Nexus core. Minimal discharge. But Admiral, the officer hesitated. That could destroy the entire sector. Kale's lips curved slightly. Only if we miss the alien fleet opened fire first. Thousands of plasma bolts and rail slugs streaked toward the humans like a storm of burning stars. The Titan did not move. Instead, the space around it shimmered. Every bolt vanished into nothing, swallowed by an invisible field. When the firing stopped, the humans replied with a single pulse of light. It wasn't a weapon. Not in the traditional sense, it was a burst of folded energy. Pure gravitational force shaped into precision. Where it touched, ships folded like paper, entire formations torn apart without explosions, just silent vanishing. The battle lasted minutes, not hours. Alien commanders screamed for retreat, their ships tearing themselves apart under the invisible weight of Terran weaponry. The humans never spoke, never shouted, never mocked. They moved with perfect precision. Every action deliberate, every motion efficient. The galaxy's most powerful fleets were undone by silence. Then the Eden Nexus roared. It began pulling in light. Energy. Everything around it a swirling storm of cosmic destruction. Beautiful and horrifying. Every ship, human and alien, felt the pull. Kale watched the readings climb, his voice steady. Eden's reaching terminal instability. It's going to consume the core. His crew looked to him, eyes wide with fear. What do we do? Kale placed a hand on the console, his tone calm, almost gentle. We finish what our ancestors started. He ordered all human ships into a precise formation. Their hulls began to glow with lines of golden light, forming ancient patterns of Terran design. Begin the fold sequence, Kale commanded. Each vessel extended massive structures from its sides, lattice arms humming with energy. The ships linked together, forming a single, unified network of light that encircled the core. The alien admirals watched in awe as the human fleet became something else entirely. Not a fleet, but a machine. A stabilizer large enough to hold a star system in place. The Eden Nexus screamed, reality trembled, then, in one brilliant flash, the entire core blazed like a newborn sun. Every sensor in the galaxy went white. Every ship lost contact, and when the light faded, the humans were gone where the core had been. Now floated a calm sphere of light, stable, silent, perfect. The Eden Nexus had been sealed again. Its power contained, no debris, no battle scars, just peace. The alien fleets drifted quietly, unsure if they had won or simply been spared. The last transmission ever received from the Titan echoed across the channels. Faint but clear. The core is safe, balance restored. Humanity withdraws. Then silence in the days that followed. The galaxy tried to understand what had happened. No one could find the human fleets, no signals, no wreckage. Only a faint gravitational pattern near the core. A heartbeat too precise to be natural. Scholars began to believe the humans had become one with their machines. Guardians of the core beyond time and space. Protectors of a galaxy that had long forgotten their mercy. Every empire withdrew its fleets, afraid to ever approach the core again. And in every academy, every training hall, young cadets learned a new rule. Never challenge what sleeps at the heart of the galaxy. But far beyond the core, in the distant void between galaxies, something shimmered. A dark hull moved quietly, surrounded by thousands more. The Titan still lived, its lights dim but steady. Kale's voice echoed softly in the silence. They'll forget again someday, he said. A young officer asked, and when they do? Kale looked out at the endless dark. Then, he whispered, we remind them why they once feared the humans, us as soldiers, but as the architects of destiny. In the quiet after the Battle of the Core, the galaxy entered an uneasy calm. Fleets returned home scarred and confused, their admirals haunted by a single thought. Why had the humans spared them? The Eden Nexus was stable, the stars no longer bending, but something invisible pulsed from the core every few hours, a rhythmic vibration that passed through matter and energy alike. Some called it the hum of salvation. Others whispered it was the heartbeat of the human god machine. The Galactic Council sent probes, but every drone vanished. Anything non-Terran that crossed the invisible barrier around the core simply disintegrated. For the first time in known history, no one tried to claim the center of the galaxy. It belonged to the ghosts who had once called themselves human. Months passed before the first sign appeared. A small asteroid station near the edge of the Orion Rift suddenly came online, broadcasting an old human frequency. When a nearby exploration ship tried to intercept, the station opened a channel. A hologram appeared. An old man in a Terran officer's uniform, eyes glowing faintly silver. "I am Admiral Ethan Cale," he said. "Or what remains of him. I was not destroyed in the Battle of the Core, I was integrated." The transmission spread across the stars in hours, impossible to jam or silence. Ethan's voice continued, calm and tired. "The truth is simple," he said. "Humanity never sought war. We sought survival." He paused, looking beyond the camera, as if remembering something painful. "When the Great Collapse came, the galaxy turned on us, accusing us of crimes we did not commit. We withdrew, built beyond the rim, and discovered the truth behind existence itself," he gestured. And the hologram shifted to show an image of the universe. Threads of light stretching like veins through space. "What you call stars, black holes, and gravity, these are not natural. They are engineered," he said. "The first architects, ancient civilizations beyond your comprehension, created the framework of the universe. And we, the humans, were their final experiment." The crowd watching the transmission across 1,000 worlds froze in disbelief. "Humanity was meant to understand creation itself," Cale continued. "But the others grew afraid. They feared what we might become. So they erased our history, burned our worlds, and left you, their obedient heirs. In the Galactic Senate, silence filled the chamber once again. If what Cale said was true, then every known empire, every power, every species owed its existence to Terran design. The Council demanded proof." Cale smiled faintly. "Look to your DNA," he said. "Every intelligent species in this galaxy carries human code. Your evolution was guided by us long before you ever saw the stars. Shockwaves tore through every government, every faith, every empire. The realization that humanity had been the architect of all life changed everything. Old religions collapsed overnight, replaced by cults worshipping the makers of flesh and star. Others refused to believe. Calling it a manipulation meant to sow chaos, but the evidence grew undeniable. Ancient ruins once thought alien began responding to human frequencies. Dormant machines on forgotten moons reactivated, displaying Terran symbols. Then came the second revelation. Cale's hologram reappeared one final time, his tone heavier now. "You were never our enemies," he said. "But something else was, something still out there." The image flickered, showing a vast shadow spreading through intergalactic space. It wasn't a fleet. It wasn't life as anyone understood it. It was a wave of absence, a moving nothingness that devoured light, data, and thought alike. "The architects made this," Cale said. "The Voidborn, machines of entropy meant to reset creation when it becomes corrupt." His eyes darkened. "They're waking, and they're coming for all of us." Panic erupted once again. But Cale's hologram remained steady. "Do not fight us," he said. "Join us, or there will be no galaxy left to save." He raised a hand, and behind him, the stars themselves shifted, warping into lines of data. "We have reactivated the Genesis core," he continued. "A living machine that can rebuild worlds, reshape matter, and defend reality itself. But it requires unity, a harmony of every intelligent species connected through the network that once bound creation." The message ended with a single line that burned itself into every ship's computer, every datapad, every mind that saw it. "The time of fear is over. The time of remembrance begins." In the following days, the galaxy changed. Terran fleets appeared across hundreds of systems. Not as invaders, but as builders. They repaired failing suns, stabilized dying colonies, restored atmospheres to barren planets everywhere they went. They left behind the same message: "We are home." The old hatreds between empires began to fade. Not because of peace, but because of awe. For the first time, the galaxy realized the humans had never been the threat. They had been the shield, one that had simply stepped away until the universe needed it again. And far beyond all of it, deep within the shining calm of the Eden core, a colossal human figure stood within a storm of light. Neither flesh nor machine, Cale's voice echoed softly, almost human, almost divine. "We were never gods," he said, "just the last children who remembered how to build them." The storm had passed, yet the galaxy no longer felt the same. Where once empires had drawn borders of war and greed, now silence filled the lanes between stars. Every world looked toward the heavens, watching the faint golden pulse that came from the core. The pulse was steady, gentle, Almost like a heartbeat, they called it the dawn signal, a reminder that humanity still watched from beyond the veil. In the months after Admiral Kyle's final transmission, chaos gave way to order. Terran ships appeared not as armies but as envoys, shimmering in and out of existence like living light. They helped rebuild shattered stations, cured entire planets of radiation, even restored weather systems long ruined by war. They asked for nothing in return. Not wealth, not territory, not obedience. Only one thing: cooperation. For the first time in history, the galaxy listened. On the capital world of the Galactic Council, a new monument was built. It wasn't a statue of a ruler or a general, but a single human hand reaching toward the stars at its base. Words were carved in every known language. They left to protect us. They returned to remind us. Delegates of once rival species stood side by side as they inaugurated the new Galactic Accord, the first truly united government in known history. It was signed under Terran supervision, their representatives appearing as holographic echoes, never fully present, yet always near. Children across colonies began learning Old Terran in schools. Historians rewrote textbooks to include the lost age of Earth and its forgotten fleets. And scientists studied Terran technology not to weaponize it, but to understand it. They discovered that the Terran machines operated not through energy or fuel, but through synchronization, a perfect harmony of thought, purpose, and will. It was technology powered by unity itself, something the galaxy had never known. Still, not everyone trusted the humans. Whispers continued in the darker corners of space. What if they control us through peace? Some said, what if they only prepare us for their next war? Others murmured. But those doubts faded whenever the UHS Titan appeared across the skies of a dying world and restored its light. Whenever Terran drones saved a collapsing sun or reignited a frozen moon, their actions spoke louder than any threat ever could. One day, the dawn signal brightened across the entire galaxy. Stronger than before, every communication system opened automatically, broadcasting a final message. The voice was calm, deep, unmistakably human. "This is Terran Command," it said. "The Genesis cycle is complete. You have learned war. You have survived fear. Now learn creation. The stars belong to all who remember their beginning." Then, in every corner of the galaxy, something extraordinary happened. The old Terran gates, the massive rings long thought to be ruins, activated. Worlds that had been isolated for centuries were suddenly connected. Ships began moving freely between systems without cost or delay. Trade, art, and knowledge spread faster than ever before. For the first time, the galaxy felt alive. Truly alive, decades passed and humanity became a legend once more. Their fleets no longer appeared as often. Their transmissions grew distant, softer. Some believed they had ascended beyond physical space. Others said they had simply gone back to sleep, satisfied that their creation had matured. Yet every century the dawn signal pulsed again. One perfect tone rippling across every star, every moon, every life form. A cosmic reminder that they were not alone, far beyond the rim. In the deep black void where galaxies blurred into nothing, the UHS Titan drifted in silence. Its hull was covered with new constellations, symbols of every species that had joined the Accord. Inside, a voice echoed softly through the command deck. "The experiment succeeded," said the ship's AI. "Life learned balance again." In the captain's chair sat a single human figure, preserved by time and light. Admiral Kale opened his eyes for the first time in centuries. A faint smile crossed his face. "Then our purpose is fulfilled," he said quietly. He looked out into the infinite dark where new stars were being born. "Let them build, let them dream," he whispered. Humanity was never meant to rule forever, only to remind creation what it could become. As the ship turned slowly toward the next galaxy, its engines hummed with a sound deeper than music, a song older than history itself, and with that, the fleet vanished into the folds of light, leaving behind only the steady golden pulse that the galaxy would forever call the dawn of humanity.